Oh, no, not tonight. We'll let you just talk away.
Take turns. Yeah.
Well, it is 6 o'clock and we appreciate each of you coming. We'd like to do some introductions tonight. We have a virtual audience, which people are starting to trickle in, and thank you for joining us virtually. We're gonna let our, well, I'll just start. My name is Keith Meekum. I'm the Assistant Superintendent over secondary teaching and learning, and I work with all the secondary schools. And so I'll try to be the moderator. That's
There you go.
word, a moderator tonight. We have lots of guests here that are gonna help answer all your questions that you have, since I don't know all the answers, but many people up here do. So let's just do some introductions. I'm gonna start, let's just go to the left and we're gonna do some quick introductions here.
Heidi Jo West, Assistant Superintendent of Elementary Teaching and Learning.
I'm Steve Carlson. I'm the superintendent.
I'm Robert Gordon. I'm the cameraman tonight, IT director.
Corey Thompson, I'm the facilities director for the school district. I'm Dave Cox, I'm the architect with VCView Architecture.
I'm Nancy Kennedy. I'm on the school board. I represent District Number 5.
I might add, I've been told that we're supposed to hold this like it's coming from our necktie, and it sounds better, so I forgot to tell people that. Oh, yeah, thank you, sorry.
I'm sorry.
I skipped you.
AJ Gilmore, I'm the principal here at Knoxville Elder Middle.
I'm Julie Taylor, and I am a school board member representing District 4.
Catherine Allen, I'm the Executive Director over Special Education.
Wade Hyde, and I'm a school board member representing District Number 3.
Karen Cronin, school board member representing District Number 7.
Tiffany Summers, and I'm school board member representing District Number 1.
Awesome. We do also have some people in the back. I'm just gonna let you just raise your hands. The one on the right is Ben Wiley. He is our CT director. In the middle is Ashley Nelson. She is our director over instructional, I don't know why I lost that. Literacy, and Emily Williams, executive director over HR. So again, we're so grateful that each of you have taken the time to be with us today. We've set about an hour and a half, maybe total. Certainly, if you gotta go, you gotta go. And if you wanna stay, we'll stay until all your questions are answered. And so we are grateful again for you being here. And again, especially those individuals that are joining us virtually. We do wanna do a couple of things. We have about 20 minutes where we'd like to present some information for you. Our first one will be Dave Cox from VCVO, our architect that the district has hired, that if the bond is passed, that quickly he will jump right into what the design of the middle schools are gonna look like. And so we'll have him do a little presentation, and then I have some information I'd like to share. And then after that, we're gonna do some Q&A. Now, we're gonna try something a little differently. First of all, I think we can get a raise your hand, and we'll try to go first, second, third, sorry. So we can get everybody to raise their hand. Also, we have Q&A. So those that are joining us via Zoom, if you will type in the chat your questions, Mr. Gilmore is going to.
In the Q&A, please.
In the Q&A, what did I say?
In the chat.
In the Q&A. I hope you can see that, but in the Q&A, you can type in your question, and then we will certainly get to all of those questions as well. We had Mrs. Wright check in. We just do a quick, people need to know who you are.
Danielle Wright, District 6 board member.
Awesome. Thank you for joining us. Pick a soft chair or hard chair. All right, we're going to start with Dave. We'll let you take it over here, and I'm going to get to the computer.
Thank you, Keith. Thank you, everyone, for being here tonight. So I know oftentimes in these kinds of conversations, people want to see floor plans. They want to see what's the school going to look like. Tonight, that really isn't our purpose. What we're looking at tonight is more imagining what might be. We wanted to talk a little bit about where things are going in education, some of the things that a modern 21st century learning environment looks like, some of those features that they have that you can probably expect in a new school. All of that specific designing and coming up with solutions will come later after the bond is passed. So as we look at how things have progressed over time, when we look, for example, at the automotive industry and the change over time in vehicle technology, or in the telephone as a really good example, there's been a massive amount of change over time. There's also been a massive amount of change in education, in particular the way students today learn in comparison to the way we used to learn when we were in school, and the way that instruction is delivered. And we want to talk about what that might look like in Box Elder School District with these two middle schools. So if we look at historically what a traditional school has looked like, some of those features, you're sitting in a good example of that. Older schools typically were not so focused on compartmentalization and supervision, which is what we'll talk about when we show you a more modern layout. On the screen are two examples of maybe a 1950s, 1970s style design, and a few features I want you to pay attention to. The plans are very different, but they have some similarities that we want to focus on. In this view, that space right there is the administration. So when somebody comes in the building, they walk in the doors here, there's the administration, and the ability of an administrator to supervise the school is quite difficult. It's difficult to see what's going on over here in a classroom wing or in a classroom wing over here from that central hub of the administration, or for teachers to be able to coordinate and collaborate between classes. The other plan is a different version, but the same challenge. The administration area is here in the middle, but the ability to see down these hallways and into the athletics and other areas to supervise becomes very challenging. In the 1950s, 1970s timeframe, security wasn't necessarily a priority. It wasn't something that we were worried about or focused on. The ability to collaborate between classrooms wasn't necessarily a feature that we focused on. Go ahead, Keith. In more modern designs, you'll notice while the planned pieces are different, there are again features that are the same. In this plan in the upper left, my upper left, your upper right, this is the administration area. So when folks come into the building, they come directly past the administration, and now the entire building is visible down a common corridor that's wide, it's supervisable. You can see everyone moving through that school from one location. Additionally, these classroom suites shown in blue are what we call compartmentalized. So they have doors that lock them off from the rest of the building to allow a big school to feel small. So if we have a 1,000 student school, each one of these classroom suites might be 200 students. And so in the scenario of a middle school where you've got 6th graders through 8th graders, the 6th grade is able to be compartmentalized in one classroom suite. And now they belong essentially to a 200 student school. Their teachers are within that space for the majority of their day, and they're able to be contained there and work between classrooms with teachers and not be overwhelmed by a large student body that you might otherwise see in some of the older designs. So these other schools are a little bit different in their designs, but they have similar features. Administration in the middle, lots of supervision, administration here in the middle on this next plan, and a lot of visible circulation patterns so they can easily supervise with limited numbers of staff. Go ahead. So this is a 3D view of an idea of a learning suite. This may or may not be what happens in the middle schools that we're talking about here, but it conveys some ideas of features that we look at today. You'll notice in the classrooms are different sizes and configurations, so they become more adaptable for the types of instruction that's going on. They all have glass windows for transparency. And what that allows is a teacher that would typically sit in a 900 square foot classroom now has the ability to expand out into this collaboration area and grow that classroom to 1,600 square feet or more. The teacher can stay in the classroom with their students, but have small groups go out into this collaboration space and work together or work with paraprofessionals and still be supervised by the teacher and allow for that adaptability and flexibility in the space. We also look at security in these types of settings, and we'll look at that in our next slide if you'll go there. So this is a floor plan looking at the way we look at security in a modern school. This space here in the middle at the bottom of the screen is the administration area. And we bring all of the visitors to the school through a secure vestibule that allows the district to determine who should and shouldn't be there and make sure the right people are getting into the building. Once the students are in the building, the ability for an administrator to stand here in the central hub and supervise the entire building from that one location provides the flexibility for fewer administrators to provide that supervision function while the teachers are staying in their classrooms. We also look at the idea again of compartmentalizing these learning suites where students are engaged in learning here, the doors can be shut and small learning suites house those students in smaller groups. Let's go to the next slide, please. So this is a picture from some schools from other school districts that show what that might look like. This is the classroom that you're seeing here looking through the glass into the collaboration space. This is the collaboration space and you're looking back to the classrooms. So you can see how that expands that space and makes it more usable and collaborative between classrooms, but acoustically it separates those spaces quite effectively, allows the teacher to supervise but not disrupt what's going on in the classroom. Go ahead. Oh, I think we missed a slide. One of the things that we oftentimes talk about in security conversations is transparency. There's a lot of different things that happen in schools, but it's important to understand that there are a lot of inputs that result in some of these security issues that we deal with. Statistically, there are 60 million public school students in the United States every year, roughly on average. Out of those, studies have shown that 1 in 4, or nearly 15 million students, are bullied every single year. Studies also show that most security situations, generally the root cause of those situations are tied back to bullying. So when we look at schools and the way we design them, the more concealed, difficult to supervise, lacking transparency means things can happen where people can't see it. And those are the spaces where bullying and those types of things typically occur. So our job is to come up with methods to provide transparency and supervision in a safe way that doesn't create other issues. We won't go into the details on how we do that, but that's something we spend a lot of time with to make sure that it is safe and supervisable at the same time. Another feature that we like to talk about is the energy efficiency of our buildings today. This breakdown here on the lower left corner, for those online, that would be your lower right, is a breakdown of a typical elementary school. An Energy Star rated school today in Utah typically operates for about $1 a square foot. So if you're looking at an 85,000 square foot building in a year, that's going to cost the district about $85,000 to operate it, to run the lights, the air conditioning, all of those systems to provide a warm space for students to learn in, right? If we improve the envelope, the walls, the insulation a little bit, we've been able to run that down to about 75 cents a square foot. And what that amounts to is about $63,000, $64,000 per year to operate. If we go to a more efficient design, which Odyssey Elementary here in your school district would represent that, or sorry, Golden Spike. I can't read very well, you probably noticed, but Golden Spike operates at about 37 cents per square foot. So that totals about $31,000 a year. You can see a significant savings over the 75-year lifespan of one of these buildings. Those are features we try and really incorporate in a passive way to make sure you have an efficient use of your dollars in your district. Go ahead. Another one we'll jump through quickly here, but the gymnasium on the right looks fairly familiar, right? No windows, artificial lights burning. If you have 4 students in there with a teacher, all of those lights are turned on. The gymnasium on the left, if you'll notice, those are the lights right there, and none of them are on. And yet the amount of foot candles in that room are over 50 foot candles, which is the amount of foot candles we typically put in a learning space for a classroom. The benefit of this is the district never runs those lights as long as the sun is burning, right? They have access to that daylight to operate that gymnasium all day, every day during school hours. Okay. So we talk about what are some of the features that you can expect in a new modern school here in Box Elder School District. We're gonna run through a few pictures of what other districts have had us design for them. I can guarantee if you see something, you're gonna see something there that you probably will say, please don't do that in our district. That is, I expect that. You should see something like that. The way we approach these designs, and you can scroll through those, Keith. The way we approach these designs is to make them very specifically for your community. So we work through a steering committee process that the district selects of parents and students and administrators and teachers to talk about what should it look like, what represents Box Elder School District, what should this building feel like for your community, and then we make it look that way. So I hope what you'll take out of these images is that none of them look the same. This isn't a BCBO architecture competition for things that we think are nice. We really want to try and create something that reflects your priorities and your interests. Okay.
Thank you, Dave. Can we just give him a round of applause, please? Alrighty, a couple things I might add. So some of you that are on the soft chairs or even at these tables, this has all been donated from Lakeshore Learning, who's moving into the Tremont area, and they chose to do 2 schools. And they came in just this August and brought in this furniture. For those of you that would have missed it, what we've used for years and years and years and years and years, the same color as that wood, and also the chairs that were very, very wood hard chairs. That's gone now due to a donation from Lakeshore. So we appreciate them. So let's get a flavor here. How many of you, on a scale of maybe 1 to 10, 10 being, I'm pretty familiar, I've heard some things, I've read some things, I've watched some videos. Maybe those that are maybe a 10, raise your hand in the room, that you've watched the video, you've read some material on the school website. We got a couple of 10s, several 10s. Maybe I've heard it, I've seen it on Facebook. I've looked a little bit, maybe not really delved into the information. Maybe 7, 6, maybe, okay, maybe the rest of you there. And what if you've never even heard that there was a bond until you just this weekend, you got some information? Is there any that, yeah, thank you so much. It's so awesome that you would be here. So we have kind of a variety of situations here where you can get a flavor of, anyway, we got people that know quite a bit and have questions. We have people that maybe they're just jumping into this, and we're going to try to answer all of those levels. I do want to start off with, if I can share this, and I hope this works out okay. Let's see. Let's try this. And I wanted to go. Let me do this. Robert, what's our video, our virtual audience? Are they seeing the district webpage?
Yep, just
Okay.
like that.
Our district webpage or any of our schools, if you go to any local school's webpage, up here in the upper part, there's a thing called bond information. And if you were to click on bond information, you probably have more information than you would like. But feel free to jump in here and you'll see needs, concerns, overcrowdedness, updated instructional spaces, our solution, along with our town hall meeting. We're gonna have another one tomorrow at Bear River Middle School at 6 p.m. with a virtual link as well. But anyway, we have a bunch of videos and Q&A things that you can go there. And so we invite you to participate. Also, when you came in, there was a little flyer, and we hope that you were. With that, I would love, if we could, to just present just a couple of things. Obviously, like what is this versus, I'll have Heidi Jo kind of help bump through this, and I can stand because I can't sit. All right, keep going. Here in a minute, we're gonna let you each have a chance to ask your questions. And we'll just kind of turn the mic around, and if you have a question, we'll answer it. And any of these individuals will take care of that. But in the meantime, I'd like to share a couple of things. I think this is really interesting to see the bond history for Box Elder School District. When I found this information, I was blown away that bonds, which are for large projects, not for smaller projects. We build things for smaller projects, but when you get a big project, it requires bonds. And if you can see, back in 1912, the first bond in the school district was $180,000. Now, you're thinking that's not very much money, and when you're looking at it in 2024, but in 1912, think about all the wonderful community members that again invested in education. You can look through this and look all the way through. I moved to Brigham City in 1993, so there was a bond in 93. I move in, and there's a bond that's approved, and that particular $28,000 or 28 million, I wish, $28 million was actually for ACYI and Harris Intermediate Schools. And then you're gonna see that in 2007, we had a $70 million bond. This is the last bond that we had, and it remodeled both Box Elder High, Bear River High. In addition, we also built Garland Elementary up in Garland, and Summer Fielding was part of that bond, and Summer Snowville Elementary School was part of that bond. So that was the most recent. And I just thought it'd be really important that you could see, and thank you for showing this. Again, this is how our bond from 2007 and the projects that were built. Okay, what I'd like to do now is go to the next. Actually, I'm gonna come back to this, jump one more screen. Here we go. I think it might interest you that when we have a school bond, we're not able to meet every need. If we had every need we needed, that it probably wouldn't be 70 million back in 2007. It probably wouldn't have been 220 million today. But these are some things that we have as a school district used what we call capital reserve, which is we have money that we get as part of our overall budget to help pay for upkeep. Like if we wanted to remodel Box Elder Middle School's library, there would be a money and a priority that would determine if that was something we're going to do, etc. So, but I just thought it'd be interesting, and I know you all can read, so I don't want to, but take a look at this. Box Elder Middle School's gym, $5 million. We did a Harris Intermediate in 2016 and a new addition to Harris Intermediate. We built the ILSC. The ILSC, by the way, is the Independent Life Skills Center. It is over right next to the district office. It is for our students that are ages 18 to 22 with special needs that are still in special education, and we're required to continue to educate them. And so that building was built to help provide a place where they can learn, where they can develop job skills and finish out their education and support. 2018, there was a North Transportation Support Services just west of Bear River High. Young Intermediate got a new addition in 2018. Sunrise High School, for those of you that don't know, that's an alternative high school. It serves students from both Bear River High and Box Elder High that need a new place to continue their education. They're smaller classes, but anyway, on 3rd West, just down from the Tabernacle straight west, there's a brand new school there that was built. Golden Spike Elementary, which was built on this east side of Brigham City. We have both of those. Anyway, we combined Mountain View and Foothill, our two oldest buildings at the time and greatest need of school, and we created Golden Spike. And then just last year, Grouse Creek Elementary, clear out 3 hours away from here. If you haven't gone to Grouse Creek, you really haven't lived. So please make a trip when you have a Saturday and 6 hours of your life. Please go out to Grouse Creek and enjoy a great experience there. It's a beautiful school. It's a great community. But anyway, they were able to get a new school, but it cost a lot of money. Part of it wasn't because of the size of the school, but it's where it was located. Now, fill this back up to. There you go. So what is our need? Why are we proposing this bond? I just want to, and again, some of you have heard this, some of you haven't. Right now, We have several levels of school. Not including Willard and Perry, we have 4 levels. Most families go through a K-5, and then they go to 6-7, and then they go to 8-9, and then they go to 10-12. And so what happens is a family might have kids in all of those levels, and trying to orchestrate that is really problematic. Also, research says that any transition with a kid is potentially going to decrease their ability to learn. And so limiting those the best that we can is really one of the reasons why we're doing this. We did a survey out prior to actually having the school board vote on this, and 81% of participants voted this idea of shrinking down the number of transitions. So the proposal with what we're looking at is to decrease to where we have a K-5, probably a pre-K-5 would be the better way to say that. A 6, 7, 8 school, and Mr. Cox talked about that a little bit. That'd be the middle school, and then moving high school students or 9th grade students to the high school to become a 9-12 comprehensive high school.
There room at the high school?
That's a really good question, and the answer is yes, there is room, and we have people that have been looking at our property of how that's going to fit. But yes, that is a great question. So anyway, that is sort of one of our needs, is to see if we can decrease. It's also for those that are interested, our start times, elementary a little later. This would improve elementary start times by moving it up, because we just lost one transition that we wouldn't have to do currently. We've talked about the safety concerns, unreinforced masonry. The part you're in right now is unreinforced masonry of, really from the office coming to the south, it's unreinforced masonry. Now the new gym in 2012, not unreinforced masonry. Part of the addition going to the north to the auditorium, not unreinforced masonry. But where the bulk of our classrooms are, it is. And again, trying to improve that. And the same would hold true at Bear River Middle, Lakeview Elementary, and North Park. And these are our 4 most impacted schools right now, which is, for safety purposes, trying to improve that. We have loss of learning spaces that have occurred due to different programs that have been added. And Heidi Jo, our assistant superintendent of elementary, she's just so good at explaining this. But certainly, all-day kindergarten came in last year. We had to hire 11 teachers in our district to compensate for that. And we had to use classrooms that we didn't have. And so we had to be really creative of losing other spaces so that we could, support families and the law of adding all-day kindergarten to our district. We also have some other awesome programs that have blessed our community, dual language immersion and other things of that nature, CTE opportunities that have, again, taken some of our space away from our elementary schools. Now, this school in particular, Box Elder Middle School, there are no portables. So you're like, so what's the deal? Mr. Gilmore, maybe correct me if I'm wrong, but I've counted 5 spaces that we have lost to help accommodate the growth, the programs. Correct me if I'm wrong, all the special ed teachers were combined into one room. Or, excuse me, they went from 2 to 1. Every computer lab we had in this school is gone. Except for right behind there in a really nice, pretty place.
And there's like 24.
And there's 24 there. So we've had to shrink. Bear River Middle, they have 3 portables. Box Elder High, they have 5 portables. Bear River Middle or Bear River High, they have 4 portables. North Park Elementary has 8 portables. Lakeview Elementary has 6 portables. So the schools that we're looking to try to replace during this bond is to really going to help. Heidi Jo and I would talk, out of the 34 portables, I mean, I don't want to put a number, but we think 27 plus of those portables will be gone if we can have the bond pass. Does that sound about what we talked about? Let's go to the next page. So what is our solution? And then we'll take your questions. First of all, first priority, we want to replace all of our middle schools. And according now, someone says, what's all the itemized of all of the BCBO has not, we have not designed the school. And I hope you noticed that he didn't show our school. We did not design the school. We're gonna design the school, but based on 2 years, our school board members have spent just a tremendous amount of time talking to different architects, talking to different builders, and trying to decide what would this approximately be if we went with this design, a 6/8, 10/12, or a 9/12 model. And so we feel pretty confident that our number is right. However, to be fair and honest, we have not designed it yet. We're just going on the feedback that as we asked lots of questions, they told us that would be, it would cost this, it would cost this, it would cost this. And so some of that information is all going to become forward after the bond election. But for now, these are our estimates. Again, 144 million purchase land. Now, I'm gonna address it right now because here we are at Box Hill Middle School. And one of the things you're gonna say is, whoa. We just have a new gym right here. Why don't we just build to the north? And I wanna just say in our discussions is, I'm not saying that's off the table. But the reason why is this school currently is 1,140 students, and we're gonna have to bring another grade. If we bring another grade, all of a sudden, could it fit on that land? Yes, it could. But is it gonna fit with adding another 500 students to the school? Maybe not. And especially, this is a decision for 50 years. So if we had to add on, not saying that a future board, I'm not sure they're gonna add on. So first priority is, can we find land someplace else? And then obviously, if none of that works out, but by the way, no land has been purchased. We have not purchased land until but we got our eyes out. We're looking, but we do not have land purchased yet. And if the bond passes, then that decision will happen really, really quick. Okay? I'm not gonna talk a lot about Bear River Middle other than the same thing's gonna apply up there. Land, new school, etc. The 9th grade additions, we approximate $33 million to add on a 9th grade wing to both and all the instructional spaces that are required to have 9th grade curriculum held at the 2 high schools. And then our 3rd renovation, again, we haven't talked a lot about this, but we need to. North Park and North Park and Lakeview. What are we gonna do with North Park and Lakeview? We're not building new elementary schools. We'll put Lakeview Elementary into ACYI. Because their 6th and 7th grade is gonna come to the new school. And the 8th graders in this building will join that school and the 9th graders go up. So Lakeview will then become ACYI, a beautiful school, and yes, 25 years old, but 27, but beautiful and spacious, and Heidi Jo can speak a little more to that if the questions come up. Also, same thing on the north end, North Park Elementary that has the 8 portables. It would go to Harris Intermediate, and that would become their new elementary school. And again, a 6/8, 9/12 model. Okay, obviously air conditioning. Every new build is going to have air conditioning, and our 4th priority is that all schools that are not air conditioned would get air conditioning. Do you want to comment? Oh, jeepers. Quit talking right up here. That's a bad habit for me. I apologize. You could have said that a little earlier. What?
I was trying to, but
We've all been.
How about just say something? Don't just say
cause you're going, man.
I know, I'm sorry. We recognize that this does not meet all of our needs. We got we got some overcrowding in elementary school. Century is the 3rd oldest school. And although it's had Century, by the way, is out of Bear River City. It has had 3 additions, but there's still part of that school that is unreinforced masonry. And we're gonna have to address it, whether it's part of the bond or whether it's through capital reserve, it is gonna have to be a priority. Also, Fielding Elementary continues to grow, and that's obviously out in Fielding. And Discovery Elementary out here, kind of the northwest part of Brigham City. when the growth starts coming, what are we gonna do with that? So we're very aware and cognizant of these things. But this is really where the 144 million, the 66 million, the 10 million to take ACYI and Harris and turn them into elementary schools so that they fit a kindergartner, a first grader, a second grader. All of that will be part of that cost. Okay. Let's stop right here. Show me the money. Have you ever talked to a dealer? How much is this car gonna cost? You know, they talk, and they're like, well, what is it gonna cost me? I think we need to talk about that. So on an average size, right now, the average market size here in Box Elder School or Box Elder County is a $450,000 home. Obviously, that's an average, which means some are higher and some are lower. But the increase of the bill of a monthly charge, and I know that's hard to see, and I can share it with anybody, would be $19.86 a month, or roughly $238 additionally. And again, depending on what your price of your home is, that would be up or down. And again, the Box Elder County makes that assessment, but that would be approximately what that would cost. A business owner, and some of you, are any business owners in here by chance? Thank you. A business owner, and depending on the property value of your business, it could raise at $8 per 100,000, depending on what it was valued for, would be what the impact on that. And then any farmers in the house. Mr. Wiley, thank you. Depending on, and by the way, I don't know this as well as a farmer would, but whether your land is irrigated, orchard, grazing, meadow, dry, would depend on anywhere between 0 cents increase to 6 cents per acre increase. And again, not knowing everybody's situation, it's hard to speak to that, but that's kind of the financial impact. Let's now go to that real fun chart that Steve Carlson likes to talk about. I want you to know straight up I'm colorblind, but I've seen this presentation enough to know that I believe the lower left is green. The lower left is green, is our current bond from 2007. You can see that it's gonna fall off in 2029. Okay, so we're still a few years away. So we have a full payment, that considers a full payment in 24, a full payment next year, a full payment in 26, a full payment in 27, a full payment in 28, and then it's gonna drop down to a half a payment. Right now, currently, people that had an average size home, not average size, but the average cost of a home is paying around $9 a month for that particular 2007 bond. We add the new bond, which is the 1986.
Lower. Thank you.
I'm with that. And the $9.08, because we're gonna keep that amount.
Struggles.
I should just swear. Anyway, so we already are paying 9, if you will, and some are gonna pay 11 or 12, and some are paying 7 or 6, or we're gonna add the 1986. So the 20 years is going to be what we had paid. I wish we could have dropped that off. But the cost of the bond is $220, and it unfortunately wasn't pre-pandemic. Like if we would have built in 2019, the cost wouldn't have been like this, but we didn't build 2019. And so therefore, this is kind of what it is. But to be up front, that's what that looks like, okay? Now, there's lots of things we could talk tonight, but what I really wanted to do is to hear from you. So Brandon.
Yes.
Why don't you stand up? Okay. He's gonna be our, well, you're just gonna be the deliverer. Yep. Who would like to ask? You asked me, I'm gonna have you do the first question. Yeah, we'll try to keep our comments. You can ask the question or just make a comment. Try to keep it to 3 minutes, but we're not gonna time.
Is it on? Okay.
Yeah, that sounds good.
I just have 2 questions. What are you gonna do with these schools that you're closing?
you know, you're gonna close the school, maybe not use that $5 million gym, what are you gonna do with these assets? They still cost you money because they're still here, you still got empty schools like Foothill, and they're costing you money. So that's one question, and my other question is, I really don't understand the bond. Do you issue the whole bond, the whole 220 million at the same time? Or does it, and how does that work? And if you do it at different times, does the timeline go different? So those are my two
Those are
different.
two great questions. Who would like to tackle? If we move off of this property, we're not saying we're giving up the gym. I'm just saying it's not an automatic. Right now, our ninth graders play athletics in the ninth grade in that facility, what that looks like. But there's, you know, either we would sell it to somebody who wants a building.
Would you sell it at a fair market price and not lose a lot of money trying to get rid of it?
That's what we're required to
By
do.
law, we have to sell for fair market value.
Okay.
That's a really good question. Who would like to talk about property? Corey, do you want to talk about Foothill and then maybe property here?
So once a property is no longer of use to the school district and the school board declares it surplus, then they go through their process of determining what is the right thing to do with that property. And there are some properties that the school district has sold in the past that people question us on, so we're trying to learn from those things. As far as what would, if we build the middle schools on different properties than where they are now, what's gonna happen with those properties? I wish I could tell you exactly. If I had a crystal ball, maybe I could. That's gonna be up to the school board. I know that our school board is very good at listening to the public and getting input. But any of our properties are a public type property, and so we do need to give first right of refusal to the local municipality at fair market value. Mr. Roberts, did I say that right? Okay. Did that answer your question, or is there more to that before I pass?
Would you address?
Answered it. I just don't want to see a lot. I just live across the street. I don't want to see rundown stuff, okay? And I want it to be used properly. And I would love to see the school built here, but I can also see that there's not gonna be room, because that field is not that big over there. So I understand that. Now, my other question is, I don't understand the bond, if you don't
Okay.
issue it at the
So-
same time.
Okay, so another piece of your first question was Foothill Elementary. Foothill Elementary in the north end of Brigham City. We've been out of that building since we opened Golden Spike Elementary. We are still using that building on a minimum. We did have extended school year in the summertime for students who need accommodations during the summertime, so they don't lose their academic abilities. We also have a small area in there that we are using to store some special education equipment for occupational therapy. We're in the process right now, currently, of building a new portable that we can store those things in. And at that point, we could vacate Foothill, and it's up to the school board what they would determine to do with that. But when you look at that property, it's 8.5 acres in Brigham City. There's a lot of value there. And so we're trying to balance that. Does that help?
Yes.
Because if there's more to that, then we'll keep.
Would you speak to the cost of maintaining it now versus the cost of maintaining it when it's fully in use?
Oh, yeah, so right now, Foothill Elementary is semi-mothballed. We're not running the utilities like we did when it was occupied. We just keep the boilers at a very bare minimum, no univents or air handlers running during the winter time. It's just to keep it above freezing. If you walk in there in the winter time, it is not comfortable without a coat. But we don't want to freeze pipes, because then we just have more additional issues. Hey, Joe, is that what you were meaning?
Yeah,
Something
and just,
to that?
I would presume that we're still saving money over with Golden Spike and maintaining at minimum Foothill versus Mountain View and Foothill.
Yes,
right?
it's less money. I don't have the figures in front of me. But we're not running a typical in session type of a thing.
Dave, do you want to answer that second question, that second part? Just about the bonds and
Does-
Dave Roberts is our business administrator. I'll let him answer your second question.
So we have the ability to take draws off that money. We have to have it all drawn out within 10 years. So the interest as well as the payments and all that are calculated at that initial vote of 220, but we don't actually pull that money out until we need it. And at that time is when we pay a premium to withdraw that money, but it's required by law that we draw it all out by 10 years. If we don't draw all the 220 out by 10 years, then we can't draw anything that is currently left in that so-called account after that time period. But we have up to 10 years to draw that money. So that's why, as you see, if you guys vote in November, we'll take 10 years to do that process. It'll probably be spent long before then, but we will take that time to spend that money. So did I get?
There was one other part of the question. The question was, oh, go ahead.
Go ahead, clarify, sorry.
Yeah, I just don't understand, so if you take it out later, so does the bond still, you have that bar graph, so does it all? I'm not a bond person, okay?
I have a question about it myself.
Okay,
And why don't you go ahead?
let me see if I can,
Does, by delaying pulling out money, does that extend the length of the bond?
no, it does not extend length.
And so it's the same amount all the time, no matter when you pull it out?
Correct, so the only thing that would fluctuate that bar graph is if we didn't use all 220 million. If we didn't draw it out,
That's
all
what
out.
I didn't
within 10
understand.
years.
Okay.
Okay, maybe my question was different. So, looking at the thing here, so we have the $9.08 a month roughly, and then adding the 1986. But it says the total combined starting in 2029 is $28.94. Does that mean starting 2029 we're $30 a month
Correct.
and not the $20?
So that's taking the current 9 something that we're paying on our $70 million bond that's in green that will drop off in 2029 and adding that $20 for the 220 million. That's where you get your $30 is the combination of the two. Does that make sense? So the $9 is not dropping off, even though it's green and we're not gonna be paying on that. We're just including that in the payment of the 220. So your bond payment will go from $9 and whatever cents it is currently to the 220, you will add another 20 on top of that. So your total is gonna be roughly $30 in total that you'll be paying a month for the $220 million bond.
And let's go here.
Okay, I have a totally different swing.
Yep.
My understanding is the survey that you did in the spring was to taxpayers, correct?
That we did this summer
The summer.
was to all registered voters.
Registered voters, okay.
Not all, the group was registered voters.
Okay.
It was randomly given
Right,
to them,
okay.
yeah.
Registered voters or taxpayers. How many of those respondents had kids in school? Do you know? Or had kids coming up in school or not like done raising their children, I guess?
That's a really good question. I have that information, but I don't have it memorized off the top of my head what that amount was, but I can get that
There's
to
a train
you.
of thought. So you said 80% supported the reduction in schools. Did that 80% also support 9th grade going to the high school and 6th grade being the 7th and 8th grade? Or was it just the combination, like reducing one level of school?
It was presented as a K-5, 6, 8, 9, 12 model.
But we don't know how many of those 80% respondents had kids in school.
And like I said, I have that information and I don't have it off the top of my, but I can send it to you.
Okay.
That's a really good question.
Heidi Joe's looking up something.
Okay.
Maybe.
I have the stuff from Kyrene Gibb. Let me see if I can find it real quick.
You can call this a question or a comment, however, I don't really know how to present it. There are people quite a few like myself, as we've talked about this over the last couple of months, who are so in support of a new middle school, adding on where we need it. You know, reinforcing and reinforcing masonry, like totally support new building, updated building and all of that. We have a huge problem with the 9th grade at the high school. We have a big problem with 6th grade with 8th grade. That piece of this, I do not understand why that is being tied to this. I understand the part of building, I understand we need new middle schools, like totally 100%. I don't understand why we are making the decision to put 9th graders with high schoolers as part of that. Especially if the 80% was not representative of people who have kids right now. And I'll be the first to admit that it's very possible that those are taxpayers who don't have children yet or who their kids are raised. And it's just not the same society that we're raising kids in now. And so I wonder why, like, I get that that would help with athletics. I get that that would help with electives. But it would affect every single student. And I've lived in a place where we did that, 6th to 8th, 9th through 12th. I have some pretty strong opinions of the ramifications of that. So I just wonder why it wasn't like, is there another discussion of making 7 through 9 and 10 through 12? Like every other school in our region, like every other, like every other school in our region is on that. Junior high is 7 through 9, high school is 10 through 12. And that for social, emotional maturity and all the things is a lot better, in my opinion. I'm not the only one that get that. Where was that in this discussion? And if that's can be a possibility?
Thank you for that. Does anybody want to take us on her comments?
Well, I can answer.
Julie, we'll go there and then go to Nancy.
So
I think that's a really great question. And one of the things that, because I'm on the school board, and one of the things we have looked at, number one is what is most fiscally responsible. And we looked at what if we did K6, 7, 9, 10, 12. Well, we'd still need 2 new middle schools. And then we would have to add on to every elementary school because we do not have the space. And so cost-wise, it's actually more expensive to go that way. The second perspective, and I'll give you this perspective as a parent.
Question, though, you would have to add on to the high school for just that. You would have to do these huge additions at the high school.
Well, so but the cost, when we're talking about the, like Lakeview Elementary and North Park Elementary have to be replaced. So not only would we have 2 middle schools, we'd have to add 2 elementary schools and additions to elementary schools.
They wouldn't still move into the intermediate school, like, cause you could still move them into the intermediate, make a 3-grade school. That's
Make a 3-grade school there.
Graders all over the city would have to go.
To go back to elementary, you're right. And
Yeah, so you're right, yeah, so what I'm saying is we looked at the cost. So it may be apples, it may be not significant cost, but that's not the only reason, that's one of the reasons. But so that is one. The second reason is I'm an educator by profession, and the state core is built in bands of, and how do you do it, like K through 2, 3 through 5, 6 through 8, and 9 through 12. So as a teacher, I'm a math teacher, as a teacher, if I'm a middle school teacher, it's easy to collaborate with the 6th graders. I'm a 7th grade math teacher, for example. I know what the 6th graders need, and I know what the 8th grade, or what have they got, and what the 8th graders need, and when we're in the same building, we can collaborate that way. Same through the 9 through 12 bands. The other significant part that I think, and I'm a parent with children in the schools, and I've had them at all 4 schools, and I think our teachers do a fabulous job, but I am pro this other position, partially because of academics. When I have students in the middle school that now you could go remediation or advance. So if you have kids in 9th grade and they fail a class in 9th grade, when they go to 10th grade, there are some classes that are not offered at 10th grade, they're only offered at the middle school. And so when you put all of the high school credit classes in one building, you have a greater ability to make up credits, or on the opposite end, like I have students that would be more advanced. They can't get ahead in math because it's not offered at the middle school unless I physically drive them, and I'm not gonna do that in many cases. We also had comments from parents, and this goes back to that survey and from parents that I've talked to, is 9th graders are high school students. Their credits count towards graduation, and we have athletic teams, we have other extracurricular activities that they can participate in.
But they have to either get to the high school to do it, but they can't participate in the dances, they can't participate in some of those things. Now, whether we want them to or not, that's a parental choice. My ninth graders, I've got a ninth grader right now, I'm like, no, it's good, but I think that's the parent's choice. But when we're talking about education and academics and being the cohesiveness of the high school experience, it is, in our minds and what the research we've done, is more beneficial to have them. Now, and the idea behind the buildings though, is to not intermingle as much. We're trying to build wings. Now, does that mean they're never gonna see a 12th grader? No. But does it mean that they will be more compartmentalized? That's the purpose, that's our goal behind that.
Except for like lunch, gym, assemblies,
Occasionally.
seminary, right, all the things. But I think I'm more confused is that all of the schools, like our region, Davis County, Weber County schools, none of them have ninth grade in the high schools.
But I talked to Weaver and boy, did they would like to get their ninth grade in the high school. But at this point in time, financially, they don't have the ability to do that.
And the other thing is our region, Bear Rivers region is Cache Valley and theirs isn't high school. So we've got a district that's split. So when we say not our region, well, one region is, one region isn't. So it's kind of that scenario.
Nancy.
Well, and Julie covered most of what we discussed at some beach days, doing the parade. So, and I have asked a lot of questions, because of some of the things you brought up, I really appreciated when you asked a lot of questions. And going into this, I too was concerned about the ninth graders, but academically, it makes so much more sense. Because when the kids are here, oh, I'm doing this wrong. When the kids are here, it doesn't really count.
Yeah.
My grades don't count. I have no idea where this goes.
Yeah.
Anyway, my grades don't count. But when they're in the high school, everybody is dealing with grades that count. So they would be in these compartmentalized ninth grade centers where for the vast majority of time, like Kate said, all of our kids would be in these compartmentalized units where they would be with things that are specific reflective to their age and what they're studying. But it does give them the opportunity, and it gives the counselors a chance to really work with these kids and help them do the things that they need to do to get prepared for college, to get into college in advance, because suddenly they're big kids and they're not just hanging around the middle school.
Thank you for that. I'm gonna take a poll. AJ, can I take that question right there? About what percent of this budget is planned to support administration overhead? 0. It's illegal. A bond can only go for building. It's for capital. It cannot be for personnel costs. So, and then I want to just add this one. Earlier you mentioned this bond will eliminate most of the overflow temporary buildings. Can you elaborate on this? How this capital reserve will remove that need? How do you want to take that?
Sorry, no, because I don't remember what you said, because I was focused on my question.
I can answer it. Yeah.
We have, there were 200
Of the 400 respondents that were parents. So what they did, I had to add them together because they asked about a $220 million bond versus a $250 million bond. So we had 200 of the respondents have children in the schools.
But we don't know what percentage of those respondents voted to put ninth grade in the high school.
We don't know that.
That we would.
Yeah.
Yes, we do.
Let me deal with the overflow and then we're gonna go to your question, Jen, right there. So first of all, the middle schools would not have portables, right? So immediately we just eliminated Bear Rivers 3. When you add on to Box Elder High and Bear River High with the ninth grade wings, all of that takes care of those portables because we're gonna add the infrastructure to eliminate that as well. Since Lakeview Elementary is going to go to ACYI, ACY is big enough that you don't need those 6 portables. And North Park, when you go to Harris Intermediate, there's 8 portables. It's big enough to accommodate that. And there will possibly, most likely be a need to restructure some of the boundaries because Young and Harris Intermediates have space. And so therefore we may have to bring some of these other surrounding schools over a little bit or programs a little bit to make sure that we meet our overall needs. I hope that answers that question. Let's go here. Oh, sorry, I almost did your job, but at least he wouldn't yell in my mic.
So two questions and a comment, hopefully I can remember them both. So the first question is dealing with the administrative, would we save the administrative cost by eliminating the ACYI, I guess would be one question. Is that one of the cost savings? The second question is, I'm not particularly fond of the overflow modules and wondering how it's been received at Golden Spike. Is it utilized well and do they like it there?
So Golden Spike, the overflow, there's
You know,
no,
the collaborative space where the garage
Oh.
door goes up. And
Heidi Joe, you may want to answer the collaborative spaces at Golden Spike and kind of the overflow.
Is it
Just
used-
Is it used?
Like, yeah, how is it received at Golden Spike, being in the
Oh.
school with the.
Yeah, and see how hard it is?
garage
Yeah.
door kind of-
I've never been in that school that students are not out in the center spaces. They're constantly being used for differentiation of instruction, whether that's acceleration or remediation for students that are learning at a variety of levels. They have, small group instruction, collaborative projects that are happening. A lot of different things are being used in those hallways at all times. I haven't ever been in there that I haven't seen them used. Have you, Superintendent Carlson or Literacy Director? No, always, yeah, it's very similar in concept to what we have at 3 Mile Creek, Garland and Building Elementaries. They have those large collaborative spaces that are being used so often. That actually at Garland, one of their solutions for kind of running out a little bit of space is to have put walls around that space to kind of create another learning space for like character ed and music, art, things like that. Back to the question about how many of those were parents. I thought it was on here, but what it says is 381 of the respondents voted for yes, they support the grade reconfiguration. So with 200 of those being parents, it would reason that only 19 of the parents would have then said no.
you had another.
Yeah, my
If
last
it was
comment
all
is,
parents.
we're just 12 years in Brigham City, so we're considered newbies. But I would say when we came here, we thought it was kind of absolute lunacy that we were driving our 9th grader all over to go to high school sports and to do advanced math. And so we are supportive of the reconfiguration. I really appreciated what you talked about having the modules, kind of pods. Here's your 6th grade pods. And I mean, even here in the middle school, we do a different lunch now for the different grades. So I'm totally supportive of that, even though I don't have kids no longer.
So I hate to date myself, but in 1993, I became a math teacher at Box Elder High School. We had 4 grades and we had 2 lunches and it was fine. Now, kids may have changed, but my point is we're gonna have to have 2 lunches. I know those seniors love 1 lunch, but we'll probably have to go to 2 lunches and that could again, could accommodate maybe a 9-10. And then maybe 11-12 or by class, but we're certainly gonna keep them away as much as we can. And I think we also need to recognize that people through social media connect at any age right now. And sort of say that during, this school 8 to 3 or 7:30 to 2:13, we're gonna be able to totally keep them away from each other. I'm not sure that's a reasonable request as well. So thank you for your comment.
Yeah.
6 through 12, you read the buses together currently. Yes, Steve, thank you. Superintendent. Don't put it up here.
I'll try my best. One other thing that we haven't talked about is when we did do the remodel on the 2 high schools, we left a portion of both buildings way outdated. On Bear River High School, the whole north wing is outdated and needs to be replaced seismically. At Box Elder High School, our CTE department is older than this building. And our plan is to replace the CTE. And so that's how part of all these pieces came together to be able to take the 9th grade over there, take them over there academically, provide the 9th grade with a great CTE program that's good here, but it's just not as good as it should be for the 9th grade. So that's one of the pieces that we haven't talked a lot about is that CTE piece here in Brigham City and it's kind of the science social studies wing on the north end of Bear River High School. So
We have a question online about what percentage of this budget is planned to support administration, overhead, or district personnel. Bonds cannot be used to pay salaries, buy curriculum, pay for supplies. 100% of the bond has to go towards facilities and construction.
More questions, yes. I think that's.
Did you get it? Okay.
I've got a few different questions. One comment that I've seen online a lot is people are saying that the school district is currently mismanaging funds or has mismanaged the last bond. I am curious, you showed us that what the last bond was used for. Is what it was used for what it was sold as in the beginning? What were those things the same, what you guys said it was gonna be used for and what it was actually used for, were those things the same?
The answer is yes.
Okay.
$70 million. As you can, I just want to show this slide up here, it's really good. The original plan was to have $56 million go to remodel Bear River High and Box Elder High. And then another $14 million to build and help support elementary construction. Now, I will tell you where, some of this misinformation that's out there, I'm gonna take a stab at what I think it was. You only got so many $1 million, and there was a committee put together in this end of the district that said, what do you want to do with this 35 million? And then Bear River, what do you want to do with your 29 million? And how are you going to do that? And just like Superintendent Carlson said, we could not meet all of our needs. So there were decisions that were made. I currently was at the high school. I was a math teacher. My classroom got destroyed and I went to a new wing. However, some other decisions were made on the north end where they didn't get quite as many classrooms, but they did get a bear center, an indoor practice facility that they have used for a variety of reasons. So this idea that, well, I didn't get the whole school, we had X amount of $1 million that went to both ends. And the decision was made by a committee of how we were gonna best spend that. And then obviously Garland Elementary and Fielding Elementary, along with the QSC bond and Snowville Elementary, all of this was part of that as well. Great question.
I have a couple more questions. One, you're using the same architecture firm that did Golden Spike, is that correct?
For the middle school.
Yes, it did go out to bid and everybody came in and did their presentation and a group of, and I don't know who, I wasn't serving on that.
Board members, myself.
Board members, superintendent,
Dory.
facilities director, they went through the bids of all of the different businesses and BCBO was selected.
So I'm curious if a conversation has been had with like the teachers and administration at Golden Spike, what features they have liked there and what features they feel like are not working well. Because I've heard some stuff from teachers that are like, you know, we like this, we really dislike this. So I'm just wondering if that conversation is happening as we plan for these other schools.
The answer, does anybody want to take that one? I have a feeling. Let's go Corey and then Heidi Jo.
So that is premature. The reason being, if we were to present to you, this is the plan that we chose, then you're voting on that and the public didn't get any say. The teaching staff, the staff of the school didn't get any say. So that kind of a conversation, that kind of input is, with the passing of the bond, that's when that would take place. That's when we would get together with a committee and really start pounding out the details, which floor plan, what finishes, and how do we want that space to function.
Is that a conversation that will likely happen if the bond passes though?
Yes, and
absolutely.
also partially because you only want to go so far down this road with VCBO without a bond and an agreement from our voters that they support us going down that road. But what I would like to speak to is we did take a team of teachers and administrators, elementary teachers, administrators, special education personnel through the intermediate school here in town and said, what do you think about this? And one of the things that they gave feedback on is that they really liked the possibility of those intermediate schools serving as elementary schools. And a component of that was, you know, the consideration of Golden Spike. A lot of the teachers said, you know, we really love the big open collaborative spaces. We like being able to see what the students are doing. It's not a distraction, but the 2 levels is a little bit harder maybe for some of the younger students. They they address that by having those students on the lower levels and they make adjustments. But we did get some feedback about what has worked really well in that school. What do we like about it? And what are some things that maybe don't work as well? So again, as you mentioned, we want stakeholder input on that. And we did have stakeholder input on Golden Spike when we worked with that. We had teachers that gave input and parents and things like that.
You might also add grade, sixth grade teachers, seventh grade teachers, eighth grade teachers, ninth grade teachers, computer labs, science labs. What are the needs that we need? All that we don't have. They're gonna give great feedback, but I think it's also worthy. The BCBO does this all the time for schools all across Utah for sure. Do you ever go out of Utah? So they do this all the time. They see things we've never even thought about. And so between their experience, the experience of our staff, input from parents, gives us a great opportunity to create a good product that will be here for 50+ years.
I have one last question. The theater here at the middle school and at the high school, that's a tremendous asset, I think, to the schools and to the community. Is it anticipated that there will be theaters in the new middle schools, or is that a feature that is potentially up for elimination? Do we know that yet?
We haven't designed it, but my hope is that it stays. That's Keith Meekum. The theater programs are huge, especially on this end. But again, knowing the needs of both. Currently, Bear River Middle does not have an auditorium. Their school is really close to Bear River High. I'm not saying they don't want one, I'm just saying they don't. Their school wasn't built with one, where this school was built with one. I might also know, having been the principal of this school, and Mr. Gilmore probably could talk to this, it's nice to have a place where you can get at least half of your student body. And if we're talking 1,600 students, we gotta have a space that's 800. Our current one holds 5. So having a space where you could gather people would be important for lots of different reasons, but that has not been determined because we don't have a design yet. Anything online, AJ, that is coming up? Okay, people online, please go to Q&A and type your question. If you'd like to join us, that would be great. Let's go right here, Brandon. Thank you for your patience.
I just have a couple questions. I'm kind of a person who likes to look ahead to the future and all the things that are happening currently in this country. I don't know, amateur economic sleuth. Housing market crash, which is very possible currently in this country. What does that look like with a $220 million bond with people who can, just now barely even afford to feed their kids? And quite frankly, there's not a single house in Brigham that's under $100,000. There just isn't. I bought my condo back in 2015, and still wasn't under 100,000. So I don't know, I just struggle with things like this coming during such a big thing in our country. And I understand, progress happens no matter what, but it's, I don't know, a part of me is just wondering, what is the ramifications of, future things like that happening, and or businesses in Brigham City that, can actually contribute to these things, so it's a little bit less on the John Q. public.
That's a really good question. I'll have a comment, and then if anyone would like to add to that. I don't know if you know or remember what happened in 2008.
I do.
So we passed the bond in 2007, and within 1 year, all of a sudden, things were dropping off the ground. We're diving 2008, 2009, 10, 11. I don't know how we did it. I was, one of them in that time frame where we just paid our taxes and we did what we did, and it was tight. But the reality is we found a way to get through. I can't project, obviously it's a decision. As a patron, you're gonna have to decide, what do you know about the future? Please share if you have some insight.
Amateur economic
401k
professor.
taken care of. But anyway, not knowing exactly what the future holds, But I just know that in 07 we had an example where the market dropped immediately. And somehow we found a way to keep things moving along, but it is a concern, no question, and valid, but I don't really have. Tiffany Summers has a comment. Yeah, you can use that. I think we can share.
As a school board, we discussed when this was in the past, a point of discussion for several years. And we agree with one of the reasons that made it hard to go for this bond is that we knew pockets are tight, money is tight for families. And it's a big ask. We recognize that. But at the same time, I guess I can just speak for myself, but it was a unanimous vote to put this bond forward because we as a school board know that this is what our kids need in Box Elder County. But we recognize it's a big ask. So please don't think that we as board members don't feel that same pinch and know that your money is important and your budgets. So are ours, right? We're looking at that same thing, but I for one just knew that I had to ask for it for the sake of our kids. So, but we hear you.
Yeah, so yes, we realize the impact it has on families and that's been one of our biggest concerns. I will say this, what you invest today should come back as a bigger return tomorrow if you invest correctly. And my philosophy has always been, if you invest in the kids, those kids are the ones that create the environments that you want to be in 20 to 30 years. So either you pay it in education or you pay it in social services later on in life. And if we used to kick this can down the road even farther, we've seen a pretty dramatic increase in the cost of buildings in the last 5 years, probably more so in the last 5 years than the previous 10. And so if we keep on kicking the can down the road, that $220 million bond may be a $260 million bond in 4 years from now, if we decide to wait. So there's advantages and disadvantages to implementing this today versus 4 years versus if we would have done this 4 years previously, right? It's all a risk that we take. And what we're hoping for is that you do what you feel is best for you and your family. But at the same time, hopefully we've portrayed in our conversations that we've done as much research and conversations as possible to minimize the impact on families because we pay those taxes too, right? As residents of the county. And so it's going to affect our pocketbooks too. But I also like to mention too, that you mentioned about the businesses. So if most of you probably saw this year that your assessed value of your homes went down, as well as the amount that you paid in property taxes went down. And the reason that there's a twofold to that situation. First of all, they do a reassessment on homes one time a year, the assessors in the county do, and that's done in January. And then in January, they determine what the house values went for, or what the house is sold for versus what they're valued at. And that's how they determine that assessed valuation, if it drops or increases. The other part of that is your taxes. So the school district pays, or the school district receives taxes on a revenue basis. So it's not as your value goes up, that tax rate stays the same and we get an increase when your values go up. We get $100 from you. And if your value of your house goes up, your tax percentage drops and we get $100 from you. So it's all revenue driven. None of it is based off of the assessed value of your home and that tax rate staying the same. That tax rate fluctuates as your values fluctuate and we get the same $100 from you unless we decide to go out in truth and taxation and increase that percentage. And then we would get more money based off that increase in the increase whatever percentage we decide to do. But just understand that the taxes are revenue driven. They're not driven by the tax rate with the combination of your assessed valuation. And the other part of that is, if you guys notice in your tax notice, most of you, some of you may not have, depending on what happened in the course of your home over the last year. But the reason your assessed valuation went down and your tax, the amount you're paying in taxes went down is because a bigger portion of the tax burden is now being carried by commercial. And the reason that has happened is they have not reassessed commercial property in Box Elder County in the last 18 years. Last year, they reassessed some commercial property. That's why the burden on the residents was able to go down, because of the value of that total taxing. And so I'm hoping that if they continue to do that every year and reassess every 5 years like they do with our residential homes, that as they do that and the values of the commercial properties go up, then less burden will be on the residents and more burden will be on the businesses or commercial properties in the school district. So if that,
Taxes went up 18% last year.
well, all I can speak to is that as I've talked to people is that, as I've talked to them, they've asked, and my own notice in and of itself, my assessed valuation went down like $80,000 and my taxes dropped 118. And that's because of the commercial property carrying out more of the tax burden that is associated with the current law and the levies that are part of that. I can't speak to you, so I don't know about yours, but I just tell you what.
Mine went up, like the area that I'm in, like I'm like right in between two different schools.
Okay.
And my property taxes went up.
Okay.
To pay for the new school, which I think is fantastic, like, okay, but again, like.
Is
I don't know,
that school meeting Golden Spike?
Yeah, like it's a great school, fantastic, I think that it was actually, necessary.
Did her taxes go up or did her, the cost of your home go up and that made your taxes go up? Did your assessment go up?
Yeah, the assessment went up, but with the thing is. There was a whole meeting with Brigham City and they increased everyone's property taxes by 18%. So, I don't know, I guess part of my question is. If you guys are wanting to do this, why didn't you guys have discussions at the table when they were presenting the 18% tax increase last year?
From Brigham City, is that what you're referring to?
Yeah, because I don't know, I'm gonna assume that the city actually like subsidies some of the school things that are happening with like buildings and things like that.
They don't.
They don't do that?
No, so just so you understand, each municipality or group has its own taxing authority. And the really odd thing about a school district is it has taxing authority. Most voted elected officials in the capacity of education don't have that. So like, for example, the universities, they don't have any taxing capacity, but they get all their building money from the legislators, where a local school district has to tax in order to find money for buildings. That's the difference. That, if you understand a little bit of that. Okay, so when it comes to taxes though, Brigham City doesn't pay any portion of Box Elders, and Box Elders School District doesn't pay any portion of lease revenue. No, they're two separate entities, and they each have separate taxing authority.
I'm gonna have superintendent answer what about Golden Spike, and then Julie.
No.
Oh, as a stretch.
Golden Spike cost about $29 million. We had 15 million in reserve. So we paid that much on reserve. Then we got what's called a lease revenue bond. And what that is the amount of money that we already had coming in. We just basically pay a yearly mortgage payment on that. So that Golden Spike Elementary did not affect taxes in any way, shape or form. So that's something we just needed to clear up. So I'm assuming from everything we've been talking about is your property assessment just must have really shot up. That could be the only answer. And I don't have it here with me, but I have mine on my desk, my home in Perry. And I'm always looking at that and, to try to help answer these questions. So if you wanted, to share that, we could talk during the week sometimes. If you want to call the district office, I'd be happy to work with you on that.
Okay.
Thank you. We promised about an hour and a half of questions, and we're almost out. We're willing to stay here all night. But if you have more questions, now's a good time to ask them. Again, virtually.
If
Yes.
it passes, when will construction start?
Yeah,
So I'll go
my
to the timer.
Okay. With the bond passing, construction would start as soon as possible. I know, I can't give you an exact time of when the shovel first hits the dirt. But the longer we wait, the higher the prices. It's kind of a little bit of a guessing game, and we try to find the best window for those bids to come in the lowest. So we want to go out to bid when contractors do not already have work. If we go out to bid, say in May or June, our price is gonna be sky high, just because they're already working and we're gonna pay a premium. So during the fall and winter time is gonna be our optimal, typically the optimal bid window time. And we will probably be about there, working with our architect and our general contractor as we finalize designs on the building with the committees and the groups of stakeholder input that we establish. That's about where we'll be. So optimally, we're kind of thinking about a year from now. As soon as I say that, somebody's gonna say that's public record and they're gonna try to hold me to it. But we just need to try to use the county's tax dollars wisely. We wanna find that best bid window, and that's about where we're at.
Could you also speak to that allows us to get stakeholder input on
Right.
plans?
Right, and so, as we mentioned, we do not have a set plan. Likely, we would go with a plan that's already been developed. But as you saw from Mr. Cox, the schools that he showed, they all look different. But I'm believing several of those may have been a similar floor plan. And it just looks different from the outside. We find a floor plan because that's less costly to us than if we go out and design a brand new building. But I don't know, what's your library like of floor plans?
Been doing it for 50 years, so there's a lot.
Yeah, there's a lot. And we can tweak those plans. I already have ideas in my mind of what we would need in a building. And that could actually work in probably any floor plan that they have. And then we take that, we'd work with the committee and get all that input. Okay, so I talked a lot. Did I help to answer that question? Oh, it was an online question. Okay. When does it start? I was trying to be generally specific.
And he says yes.
Okay.
I will also say that your pamphlet that you picked up for those who are in person, we kind of have that tentative line. Again, it's pretty tentative because we don't have the builder.
Conservative.
It's conservative.
Tentative.
We don't have the design, but all of that's gonna happen in 2025. So we can go to bid and start building right away. Also, we will be sending out this flyer to each household. You'll be getting it sometime, maybe within the week or maybe 2 weeks. That'll answer that question as well. So other questions? You guys have been amazing and patient, but is there anybody that's just dying to ask? Yeah.
I do have a question, but I
I'm
was
so
just gonna.
glad.
Well, because I know this is like based on what's gonna happen, but I also would hope that, as being a cook, a unit manager, I would hope that we would be on the committee that would, help design the kitchen, because I just know in the past, sometimes you go in there and they're like, I don't know why they did this. Like, some guy came in and did this, and they don't work in the kitchen. So I just have to put that 2 cents in there.
Let's put an exclamation mark on that one. Oh, maybe ask the unit manager what a kitchen should look like.
There you go.
I don't know.
Yeah.
So just to give an example, when we built Golden Spike Elementary is, the look of it is unique to our school district. But they built it 12 different times. That floor plan in other districts, but we tweaked it to make it work for us. In the committee that we had to design that building, we had IT, we had special education, we had food services, we had my maintenance crew, because we want to get uniform door hardware and sprinkling systems. And so we go through all of those nitty-gritty details. We had teachers, we had administrators, all giving input to try to get this building to work as best as it can for us in the district. Does that help?
Yes.
Anything else on that?
Thanks for being courageous and asking that. Maybe if I use proximity and walk towards you, you'll feel this pressure that. No, really. Does anybody have any other questions? Online, last question. Will these slides you have shown be available for us to look at? Heidi Jo has made this presentation and we've kind of mixed them up depending on where we're at. What do you think?
It's a compilation of all of the slides and the
They're all there.
videos, but we would be happy to put this online.
We could put this online. It might not have all the Q&A and the explanation, but certainly we can put it under bond information under
Town
the
hall
district,
meetings,
town
yeah.
hall meetings.
Yeah,
And the
we'll do that.
recording of this will be available on our BSD YouTube channel.
All right,
Under the
BSD
playlist bar.
YouTube, and you can see that as well. So we will try to get that out and communicate. Great question. Thank you so much, Stephen M.
I have several more questions.
No worries. Let's go. Let's bring it on.
So for like the transparency of like the bond, say it actually goes through, like
Yeah.
how transparent will that actually be for, again, the John Q public to actually like, you know, just view it and just see how things are actually progressing along?
Well, I hope that as things are quickly like, okay, here we are with this, that we take pictures of what we can show. Obviously, we have to determine sites. Like we gotta have property for the middle schools, whether it ends up being here or whether it ends up being somewhere else. Here's our site. And then what is the structure gonna look like on this side? Which road? We're gonna have to have pictures. We'll just communicate that out, send it through social media of all the things we can do to. And we're here all night. You can ask us questions, but we hope that we can do a good job of explaining we're in process here. This is where our next timeline is. And that tentative timeline, hopefully we can keep updating it as it becomes a little bit more firm in details. It's pretty hard to predict 6 years from now, but we're gonna do our best to do it.
What's the backup plan if it doesn't pass?
Jackson Law. You
We
could
build
just
more
come over to my
portables.
house and ask that one. Just kidding. Thank you for joining us virtually. He's my neighbor. What's the backup plan? Well, I think, does anybody school board member wanna touch backup plan? I've got some thoughts.
We build more portables. We can't do, we pray the earthquake doesn't hit. I mean, you talked about what economically what's coming. I live close to the fault line. I'm concerned about an earthquake. We have done this for so long, pushing this so far down the road that we're to the point we can't say we're gonna just have a backup plan. This is our plan. And if it doesn't pass, we put more portables in it and we come back in 2 years and try it again.
Yeah, that was what I was gonna say, and I was gonna say, some of the things, we're gonna have to get more creative with the spaces that we have, like Lakeview Elementary, there really isn't a place to put a portable. And so there's just gonna have to be a lot of discussion and meetings and things that have to happen. We'll still educate your children, we're still gonna do the very best we can, we have fabulous teachers, we have fabulous administrators, but when space is tight, we get creative, but it is not the best for student learning, and we are going to lose and have more gaps than what we want. And like Nancy said, we'll have to come back in 2 years and say, we still need this, and it's probably gonna cost more.
In our last meeting, we estimated, David estimated about year to year is about a 7% increase in cost. Again, we know that the last 5 years, that hasn't been 7%. It's been much higher than that, but in average, it's about a 7%. So we are concerned if we have to kick this a couple years that price tag might not be, but we'll have to go back to the drawing board. I hate talking about plan B because I don't want to lose focus on plan A, but we will go to plan B and we'll have to have some serious conversations. Also, that's why I want everybody to vote. When you vote, you let us know how you feel about this. And if it's a yay, then we get to move forward with some confidence. And if it's a no, then we're gonna have to go out and say why. What was the reason why? And if we can't learn from the why it didn't pass, then probably time to replace us anyway. So we'll be listening for and against, and we'll be able to make a decision of what's our next plan based on feedback from people that voted. Jackson, didn't mean to call you out, but thanks for your help, buddy. Danielle.
I'm just gonna add on to that a little bit, so one of the reasons we decided not to wait too was because from the timeline, you saw that this plan, if it passes this year, is not finished until 2030. Everyone is not in the grade configuration new schools until 2030. That's 6 years. If we wait and do a bond in 2 more years or 4 more years, that pushes it further. Because it takes that long to build these schools. So it will cost more and it will take longer to get students to new buildings, reinforced masonry, and to the right grade configurations. If the bond does not pass, and like Julie said, we still educate it, and we do the best that we can. But right now, our elementary schools, they try to keep them, I think it's like 22 to 25 kids per class is optimal. If we have to, that number just keeps going up and up. Like at Lakeview, where there's not room for another portable, you get 2 classrooms that have up to 30 kids. Or sometimes at the middle school, 35. How many is in the middle school class?
35 to 38.
And so that you're just, the higher number of students in a classroom, then they stop learning. The teacher stops being effective because there's just too many kids to be able to get to each one and give them the interventions they need or the, extra help that they need. And so with, I can't remember the chart, but we voted in what month? I can't remember. A couple months ago, we do, the board has to vote on what schools are open or closed enrollment. So that means we're saying this elementary school can accept students from out of its boundary or this one cannot. And we only had 2, I believe, elementary schools that have the possibility to accept students out from their boundary. Most, all of them are full. And Lakeview, I believe, is at 140, or was that North Park? Lakeview or North Park, one of them is at 140% capacity. So yes, we keep adding portables, but that doesn't make the cafeteria bigger. That doesn't make the gym bigger, or the computer lab, if it's still there, bigger. They're losing their art spaces, their music rooms, their computer labs. And so if we have to keep adding portables, there won't be anywhere for those, and those programs will just be lost altogether. And those programs are important. So that's program growth, like special ed. Those kids need spaces to speech therapy. They need an individual room or classroom, not a closet. So that's why, one of the reasons we decided to vote now. We voted to put the bond on the ballot this year is because we can't just keep waiting. It's not going to get better if we wait. Couple other things is there are a lot of amendments and bond initiatives on the ballot this year, so don't get lost in them. But we did learn a couple weeks ago that Amendment D was defeated in court, and so it will still be on the ballot, but votes won't count. It will be void. And then Amendment A will also still be on the ballot, but its court date is October 15th, and it will likely also be defeated in court. So there will be a whole bunch of amendments on there, and then for the state, and then this one for the county, and so just read them all carefully. I know they're confusing. But Amendment B is another education amendment, and that one is on, this is exactly what it says, I brought it today. Shall the Utah Constitution be amended to increase the limit on the annual distribution from the state school fund to public schools from 4% to 5% of the fund? So this one does not affect your taxes in any way. It is the Trust Lands Fund that has been, is it like 100 years, Nancy? Oh,
well, so I am on the state, I'm chair of the State Trust Lands Advisory Committee. Currently, we have $3.3 billion in that fund that is being doled out to the students in the state of Utah. At 4%, the kids that are receiving the money now are getting less money than the kids will get down the road. So by raising that to 5%, it will not impact your taxes. All it does is allows us to spread more money out to the schools. This trust land money goes individually to every school based on the number of students in that school. And the school community councils are the ones that decide the greatest academic need in every school. And if you are not on your school community council, Now is the time to run for election and get on there for next year, so you can do that. But that money then is spent in the individual schools on the greatest academic need. And this will be a big lift. I think it will increase, oh, I've forgotten the number, but it will be $1 million something.
1%.
1%, but it of $3.3 billion. That's a sizable amount of money. So do vote for that one, please. It's good.
And none of that money can be used for the bond. It is for other academic, things there. Okay, we're about done, and some dying questions that anybody has. Anybody from online?
Can I make a comment?
Yeah, you're the superintendent.
Well, I'm hoping to maybe say something close. One thing, in 2003, I was a second-year superintendent in North Summit School District in Colville. And we went for bond back then and built a new middle school. And something that I think we haven't shared, and if you've had kids in this school, you do know that they're middle school aged. They're middle school aged, but it's kind of a tough age. But what we found with the new middle school, and thank you, Brandon. With the new middle school, and it was designed by VCBO, Dave Cox, I did not know back then. So changed the discipline, 38% fewer discipline acts, and it was based on wider halls. It was based on good lines of sight. It was based on more glass, but the number of discipline referrals to the office went down 38%. And for those of you who have kids in the middle schools right now, you know how many, just walk up and down, there's just so many dark corners and hiding places and things that not adults can be around. It's hard. And Bear River Middle School may be worse. So it's one of those things that we need to work on. So that's really important. Is there any more questions? Mr. Mean can close this. I'm not, or open this. I just want to say, as a superintendent, I'm incredibly fortunate that I work with two such gifted people. And just an FYI, I sound a little nasally. About a week and a half ago, I had sinus surgery, and it was supposed to be a week or two before that. So I've been kind of, in and out a little bit in my head. I've been to work, but these two have picked up like you can't believe. And I just really want to give them a public hurrah and say thank you. So let's give them a big hand for the work they've done. Plus, as we've seen, this is our third or fourth night meeting. Third. And we've had
fourth, yeah.
We've had board members come, give great information, and I just want to give them a big hand. It's a tough job to run for it in the first place, and then to put your picture, it's on the webpage, and your email address and your phone number out there to let people, call in and ask questions. And, I appreciate your question about transparency. We're required by law to be transparent in all these things. However, more importantly, we want to be transparent, and we want our taxpayers to know what we're doing with their tax dollars, because I pay taxes too, and I look at those, and we all know how we feel about it, but they are necessary. And so thank you for that question. But thank you, board. Let's give the board a big hand. And most importantly, I've been here 8 years, and I'm going to retire in a while, and I'm going to stay living here because I love Box Elder County. You guys that have been here your whole lives, you don't know how lucky you are. Those who've moved around, maybe even a little bit better how lucky you are. So Keith, I'll let you take it from here.
Thank you, AJ, and your staff, Brandon, Box Elder Middle School, for taking care of us today. And I think we're done, but let me just two reminders. Tomorrow night, again, you can join in. It'll be similar. We'll probably focus a little bit more on the north. Bear River Middle School, 6 p.m. in person or Zoom link. You can find that on the webpage. Wednesday night is a public meeting during school board meeting where you can come in and express your concerns, talk about the things you like, ask questions, etc. That happens October 9th at 6:30 p.m. over at 960 South Main in the ILSC upstairs meeting in the boardroom. So anyway, with that, thank you again. We appreciate you all. Be safe, and
returned your home, and we're grateful for your attendance.
Do you want to just show the webpage really quick and that link?
Thank you for coming.
Yes, because you had that question, can we post it? And we just posted.
Oh, we did post, holy cow, way to go. We did post this presentation right here, PDF of town hall presentations. So it is listed there. So thank you again for that great question. Have a great night, everyone.
Let's pick up chairs.
No chairs.
We need an auditorium in those elementaries.